Thank you for joining. Very good evening, everyone. So we are working on the Montessori grammar. It's been quite a lot of exercises that we did a lot in the last few weeks, like, starting from Montessori grammar, starting with grammar symbol boxes. Even in the last class, we learned about verbs and how the verbs changed into transitive and intransitive one. So it's more or less like grammar. We are not setting any kind of rules for our children. But at the same time, what we are trying to emphasize and focus is like, giving them that orderly way of doing it. So you are trying to list everything in order so that the child will also write and learn everything in a joyful way. Now, can I also include interactive material? Yes, interactive materials are the labels what you make, the symbols that you actually pick from your grammar symbol box, right? And how well that I can engage these activities. Maybe I can give them a comprehension, I can give them a paragraph. And then once the child starts to read, they understand how well that the grammatical symbols can be taken into. So this is what we are trying to work on it. But again, at the same time, you need to also work on the words, the way that the sentence is being structured, because the young children, they definitely need that clarity. They definitely need that way that the teachers are actually approaching. So in the last class, what did we see? We helped our children to understand the differences between verbs and adverbs. And we also saw the difference between the transitive and the intransitive verbs, right? So we understood that. So that means we worked on the symbols, like red circle is representing our verb. And what else? For our
Orange is
transitive
for
verb,
adverb.
yeah, orange
Transitive
was our
verb in
Black
transitive verb.
noun is black.
correct, yes. And then
Noun
for an intransitive,
orange for adverb.
correct, yes. So we tend to work on it. And to give the definitions, what was the transitive verb? It directly involved with a object.
What
We
is
wanted
what or who?
an object to complete its meaning. For example, in case I always start with verb. If you take apple, just start with apple. Sorry. For example, in case if I want to take eat as my action, eat what? I have to eat an apple, or she eats. If I put she eats, the question mark is like, what did she eat? So I need to complete my sentence and object. So always transitive verbs need an object to complete its meaning. But what about my intransitive? Do they need any object to make a meaningful sentence? For
No
example,
need.
I sleep.
Mm.
Okay. Why does I sleep? Or why do you sleep? Do anybody ask us? There is nothing required to answer for us also, right? She runs, he sings. So we don't need anything else to actually accompany that particular sentence as an object. So children need not need all of that. So what you can always do as an extensive lesson for such exercises is you can have different labels. Like, you provide set of sentences to children and let them classify. Is it a transitive? Is it an intransitive? So you can also have colored markers. And so that, the children will definitely have that. So you can mark whatever has object, you can actually underline that. So the children will also get the hang of, the sentences related to transitive verbs or intransitive verbs. So this is more or less like, we are trying to work on sentence buildings for our children. So this was our last classes exercise. Now, in case if you move to your next one, we will still be continuing with other actions. Like say, suppose in case if I'm involving it with a sentence. Now I'm just trying to open your book. Okay, so let me open the book. You can also turn to your books. I think continuation of commands is the next topic, 389. 389. Does everybody open? Yeah, let me also try and open and give it to you. Yeah. So when we're trying to work on this particular stuff, continuation of our commands, what we're trying to work over here is like, I would still use the same grammar symbol box. Since I'm working with my action words itself, what are the materials I would require? I would still need my red circles because I'm trying to work with my verbs itself. Now, since I have to have a lot of red circles, I need to also have words which will be representing the action words, correct? So I need to have another box which will be filled with action words, or the verb box is what we actually call it. Now, what I can have is like, I can have a double command. Now, we will understand what are double commands having no objects. So, double commands means I can have double actions. Two actions, no object. This is what we are trying to focus. So, all this time we were focusing on one action with object, without object. Correct? One action with object was my transitive verb. One action and no verb. Sorry, one action and no object was intransitive. Now we will be working with double commands. That is two actions with no objects. So we are going to be having this in our verb box 3. I will take one more container. So this was my first one that I would do. In the next container, what I would still have is I would still have my red symbols. I will take another box in which I will again put two actions, and those actions should also have objects. So I will have to make sentences that way. Guys, you're all getting what I'm trying to say? Now we will write more sentences in each of it. Okay. Now let's see another one. Let's take another container, my verb box 5. So what was your verb box 1? Transitive verbs. It contained action with object. What is my verb box 2? It had an action. Did it have an object? It did not have any object. No object. Verb box 3, two actions, one object. Word box, two actions, one object. Word box 5, two actions, and both commands will have each object. So that means every object will be related to one action. For example, Seema cooks, Sangeeta eats. It is not completing. What does Seema cook? Seema cooks biryani. Sangeeta ate an ice cream. So I should have two different objects and I should have two different actions related to it. Okay. So this is what we're going to be working in our box 3, box 4, box 5 in our continuation of commands. Now let's start making the sentences. Okay. So in my presentation, what do I first start with? Two actions and no objects. Can you think of sentences? Any two objects with no sentences. Two actions, no objects. Think.
Run,
I can run and sing.
run and jump.
Run
I can run
and
and
jump.
jump.
Run and jump. Very good. Do I have an object? No, I don't have an object. Very good.
Eat and drink.
Eat and sleep. Eat and sleep. Eat and sleep. Okay. So what do we do here? How do I present these sentences to our children is what we got to be writing. So when I take a slip, okay, so this is how you would prepare in your classes as well. So you're going to be taking a slip, and then what you have to do, you write two actions on the slip of the paper and you ask the child to read it. Okay, so what are those two actions I have to write now? I have to write two actions. Like the first action is run. The second action is jump. So I would write it on the same paper, or I can take individually also and I can actually ask them to read it out. Okay. Now the child tries to read both of them. Can the child act it out also? So repeat it. Now let them read the cards again. Is it got the correct sentence is what we're going to be working on. So that means individually, the teacher is going to help the child to work on two actions. Like say, for example, if you're coming down, okay, if you're coming here, so I'm going to cut down the action words and I'm going to switch the places of it. Now I can have, instead of run and jump, I can say jump and run, sleep and eat. I can switch over the places also for my children, right? So this is also what I would be able to work on it. So why have we marked here? Anytime that I'm going to be keeping my action word, the child will have to be keeping the action word on top of it. Now, say, for example, in case if I'm keeping only jump here, it is only one single action. So I keep it over here. Now, what if I have two actions? What are my two actions? One is related to my Yes, please answer. One is related.
See,
Keep talking. One is related to jump. One is related to run.
Run.
What are
run.
these whichever? I can have run and I can have,
Run or jump.
I can interchange my actions. My and is going to be here only. So that means I might have multiple label cards also, right? Jump and run and jump. So the label cards can be that way. Now what I can do, I can take a scissor and I can cut this. Okay. So I'm not going to keep it together. I might use conjunction words. So I would be able to replace it. I might be able to replace it. Okay. Now ask the children to read. Now what I can say, jump. Then I can say run. And try to put it here. Okay. Symbol is not in the right position. So it doesn't make sense. Now again put run. Again jump. Sorry, jump, run, and it doesn't make sense. So reshuffle it and try to position the symbols accordingly. So this is what is the exercise that we will have to be doing in the first presentation, where it involves two actions. For example, wink and blink, trip and fall. So each one of them, you have to make a label card. Okay, first, second, third, fourth. Okay, this is an important exercise. Continuation of...
Ma'am,
Yes.
excuse me. This wink and blink, run and jump. We'll be having this this connecting verb as a and as one step, and all these actions as different steps. So the
Yes.
children,
You can actually, initially you can cut it and show it to the child. But later, they can all be in one label. Because now the child understands there are two actions which is involved and I don't need an object for it. See, we are trying, wink and blink. Do I need an object? I don't have to explicitly say wink and blink your eyes. I don't have to do that. Right? So wiggle and giggle. I don't need any object. So it is again continuing. Now, if I say wink and blink, we would still be having another question which puts me like, how long I have to wink and blink. Wiggle and giggle for how long? Run and fall for how long? Trip and fall. Why? The children might actually ask questions. So we would again be seeing that in our continuation of commands, wherein we pause, like, for 5 times, for 6 times, for 10 times, run and jump a mile, skip and jump 2 miles. We would still be able to continue our sentences in that way, wherein it gives a little bit more meaning for our children. We might not be involving an object, but again, the meaning becomes a little bit more better. So this will all come in our in our continuation of commands. It will all be under one this thing, okay, one label. Now coming to your next box, that is verb box 3. As I mentioned, this box will have what all? We would have 2 actions and 1 object. Yes, everyone?
Yes,
Can
ma'am.
we have anything like that?
No, ma'am. No object, ma'am.
No object, sorry.
No object, right, ma'am? Word. Yes,
No, verb box 3. Okay, sorry. Sorry. That was verb box 3 was no object. Sorry. I was thinking it is verb box 4. Okay. So here introducing, that was our verb box 3. So we did all of that. Now we are moving to our book presentation next. That is my verb box 4. Correct? So this is our verb box 4, wherein we would have 2 actions and 1 with an object. What sentences can we do here? We're going to follow the same thing. We're going to have our label cards. We're going to cut out each of the sentences and then we're going to be putting it up. What can I actually have here? 2 actions.
Throw and
with an
catch
object.
the ball.
Uh-huh.
Throw and catch the ball. Throw and catch the ball.
Please repeat it again.
Hi. So it is
Throw
throw
and
and
catch the ball.
Throw and catch the ball. Oh, okay. Okay. So we have what? Throw and catch the ball. Okay.
So they can
Now you might actually try to work with the different kinds of combinations and you should be able to work with that. Okay. Now say for example, in case if I have to be working on this, so we have couple of examples. work on this. Let me give you.
அந்த இதை கட் பண்ணு.
Okay. So this is with 2 actions and 1 objects as I showed you. Run and skip in the playground, jump and swim in the pool, sit and listen in the class. So actually we can put all of that. So we might have 2 different actions and 1 object that can be directly linked over here. Okay. So you can have multiple statements like that, which will help you to work with each of your presentation. Moving to this next one, which talks about your verb box 5. Okay, you can write it there only. Here only you can write, but we will not be working with one object. We will be working with, one object. We will be working with 2 different actions. Now coming to our next presentation, that's our verb box 5. Okay, so you got to have your verb box 5. Your verb box 5 will have what? 2 actions.
2 actions.
And
2
each
objects.
of the actions,
2 objects.
an object.
2 objects.
What is
2
your
objects.
priority? You got to pick your written slips. So we make our slips in such a way that we definitely have an action that's going to connect with it. Now, can I have an example that way?
Bring your plate and eat your food.
Very good. Bring your plate and eat your food.
Eat your food.
Bring your plate. So bring is the first action. Plate is the object. Bring your plate and eat your food. So this completes our first action. Okay. Likewise, you have your other statements. Take a tissue and blow your nose. The next one, beat the eggs and whip the cream. Rub your tummy and pat your head. Dust the table and sweep the floor. Wash your fingers and trace a letter. So you can write here. So, okay, so wash your finger and trace. Always start with finding the action words first. Okay, wherever there are action words, try to figure out the action words. And in continuation of commands, you will not be notifying any other symbols. Only wherever we have verbs, only for that we're going to be putting it. So depending on what is the command that they've asked, what is the verb box that they have asked, you have to do the exercise accordingly. So they might specifically say, with the help of verb box 5, demonstrate the activity. How can you use commands in introducing language for children? So verb box 5, you should know what it is. 2 actions, 2 objects. If they say verb box 4, you have to remember 2 actions with 1 object at all. Verb box 3, 2 actions, no objects. Verb box 2, 1 object and 1 action.
No
No object, ma'am.
No object.
Okay.
Intransitive.
No object.
Yeah, intransitive. And verb box 1, 1 object and 1
One object.
Transitive.
Action.
one object and 1 action. Okay. So if you remember all the verb box, right? So you can list it out. So continuation of commands. Anytime if they give you continuation of commands, we will have all the 5 verb boxes, which we would be taking into consideration. And you have to make a lot of label cards. So at least be prepared to make 5 label cards. Make 1 individual label card thoroughly, and then few of them you can cut them into labels, just like how in the book it is shown, right? Individual labels, you can actually cut it this way and you can show it to the children. Clear, everyone? This is a for sure question which has come every year. Okay. Transitive verbs, intransitive,
That's
continuation of commands. This always comes. Yes,
that
guys.
circle which we are keeping. We have to keep that circle.
Correct.
We can
Yes,
shift
you have
it,
to
or
make
if
the
the
circle.
child has to do that, ma'am.
See, when you're reading, the entire intention of this particular activity was to identify the action. When the child reads a sentence, the child will have to identify an action. If he's reading the sentence, for example, if I'm taking the last box, rub your tummy and pat your head, the child will have to understand rub your tummy. So the teacher actually makes a action, right? So rubbing is an action. So he takes a red symbol from the grammar symbol box and he keeps it on top of rub. Tummy, it's not an action. Pat, I have to pat. right? So we have to pat on the head. So he understands the action. He picks only the red color card and puts it over there. Since we are demonstrating on paper and you're showing through writing, the red symbol is actually drawn to you in the two-dimensional. Otherwise, you will take the red coin and keep it over there from the grammar symbol box. Since we have command cards, since we have all those label cards, we are going to divide each word separately, right? So that's the reason the boxes are mentioned. So the child will also understand that every word is different. If I'm reshuffling the words, it doesn't make sense. They would also get the opportunity to shuffle the words and to make a meaningful sentence. I can bring conjunctions, I can bring articles, anything. Depends on what the teacher wants to construct. That's the reason the preparation of the environment is so important. The teacher will have to first figure out what is my sentence. She needs to pick the individual words for those activities. So what some of the teachers will do, they will have set of exercises. They will separately make individual cards. They take it in an envelope and they put that. So when the child takes verb box 5, it is completely there, maybe some 20 sentences. And all the words that is linked with those 20 sentences are kept in another envelope. So they sentence by sentence, the child will have to segregate. Okay, these are nouns. These are conjunctions. These are prepositions. These are the action words. Now, when they're trying to make a sentence, maybe they can find the individual words. They can do a copy control. Some teachers might want to take as an extension lesson. They might also put them onto paper and pen. So they again go back, they bring their paper, they take their pencil, they copy that lines multiple number of times. Sometimes there could be like find out. The teacher can also do an extensive lesson. Can you circle the verbs? Can you circle the action? Can you circle the preposition? So you can also do these activities also. So depending on how do you want to close your exercise. All those exercises like, exercise 1, exercise 2, whatever they have mentioned, it is just for the reference of a teacher. You don't have to only stick to these exercises. Each school will also have multiple exercises, right? Each teacher will also do a lot of repetition. Say, for example, here in your book, they have given make a booklet of list of words. Whatever sentences that we made, I'm going to make it as a small booklet so that my child is also aware. So if they know that sight words, if they know the knowledgeable words, whatever has come in these 20 sentences, it becomes easy for the child also to read. So more often, you're trying to focus on the language part here, the recognition of the words, the sentence construction, how well that the child is able to read. That's the direct purpose. If you notice here, the direct purpose of why do we do these exercises, you're trying to work on helping the child to read better. Correct? Indirectly, what is the teacher preparing? The teacher is preparing the syntax of the sentence. You can't have jump, run, and has to be in between of two actions, right? So that is the syntax part of it. Now the child is trying to analyze by reading it. Is it making meaningful sentence? Am I sounding right? Is this correct? When you start asking more questions, that's how indirectly we're also preparing the child. Where can we have error of controls? Now, what if I give you a sentence and the pieces of the words in the sentence are missing? The error of the control is the teacher itself, because the teacher did not make the rightful sentence or teacher did not give the pieces, right? So you have to be taking utmost care, especially when you're trying to prepare for these exercises. You can't even miss one piece. In case, by chance, if you're missed, you have to immediately have extra labels and try to put off all of that. And we always encourage the child should know how to syllabicate the words, how to read a word, how to blend, how to write. Only then you do these exercises, because there's so many things which gets involved into these exercises. So preferably 5.5, 5 years, UKG children, you can actually work on it. Okay, so this is related to continuation of commands. From there, we follow to something else called as reading analysis. See, as far as what we understand, reading is what? We want to read. What is our focus? You want the child to read. It could be a book or it could be a word, a newspaper, a magazine, whatever it is. But you want to give a child to read something. Correct? So before beginning to read, what you need to always work is like there's something called as total reading. And when I say total reading, it should include all our parts of speech. So the child should have a background knowledge on oral communication. He should have listened to your sentences well. He should have listened to the speech and everything. Only then reading becomes easy for our children. Now, what you will do in reading analysis is, when you give them a small comprehension, you have to ask children, today our work is to find out all the articles in this paragraph. So what are the articles? A, an, and the. Okay. When I start reading from here to here, do I find articles? I had one article here, but can I just blindly go and underline? That's not the intention. You have to encourage the child to read this before beginning these exercises. They might not be able to read, but you will help them to syllabicate. Before, beginning, these exercises. I found the child must have worked with. They understand this, and then they found an article. So every day you take a paragraph and you do this reading analysis for your children. Okay, so start with simple sentences. Every day involve various parts of speech. Then as what you will be able to work with your children. Yes, my child is able to read it. A very crucial exercises which we do it in our school, and children will start to read. Okay, if they are coming to grade 1, if you are following this reading analysis pattern, it becomes very, very easy for our children. Now we do this in how many stages? 2 stages again. So what is my first stage? Teacher. Okay, so teacher works through the material because she is very much aware. Okay, I have taught all my grammar symbols. My child is now able to absorb all this. Now what is she going to do? She's going to make proper material. Okay, material is very important for us now. The first stage is the teacher's preparation. Okay, so somewhere it is mentioned paper material. You should have the paper material, right? You need to have bold fonts. You need to have sentences on the chart paper because it has to look little fancy also. Then what you will do, you will introduce children to wooden materials. Maybe you will take them to movable alphabets, because you want the children to also have hands-on exercises. Now the teacher is also presenting in a different way. Sensory experiences of the words, right? So now if any word is not able to be understood by a child, when you're working on the comprehension, you can actually enact that particular word, or you can go a little further to make the child understand. So this is the first thing that you're going to be working. Now, as and when you're trying to work with your sentences, not only parts of speech you will encounter, but do you encounter something else? Sometimes you might have prefixes. For example, when I said here, on reading, right? So we had this. For example, see, read, I added an ing. So is this a prefix or a suffix? It's a suffix. Read, ing, suffix, correct? So it helps the child not only to understand the parts of speech when they are trying to work, it also helps them to understand if a word has a prefix or if a word has a suffix. Does it have a synonym? Synonym, same meanings. Does it have antonyms? Does it have a homonym? Or does it have homes of gender? Or is it a collective noun? What is the sound of every particular spelling in that? So some of them will have a long sound. Some of the words will have short sound. There's so many things. Sometimes we also encounter with singulars, sometimes with plurals, right? So all these, when I'm trying to put together, the child is not learning words, but indirectly the child is learning so much. So this paragraph is very important. Whenever you make sure you're working on this lesson of reading analysis, make sure you pick words or lessons which will involve so many of these exercises. And every time that you encounter words like that, you can actually ask questions. The singular of or the plural of bird is birds. The plural of a man is men. A singular of anything, like what else I could say? Chair is chairs. When you encounter words that way, you can actually ask a little bit more. Okay, so all these are extensions to our reading exercises. Okay, do not stick to what is being given in the book. You can actually take an extension and you can actually work with that. Okay, so if you see our grade 1, whenever we are working with our grade 1 students, this is what we do. We ask the children to actually do all of that. If you want a demo of how this is done, if you have any leave on the working days until your whatever is your last working day, you can come on observation on for any of the language classes at school, and you'll be able to see how reading comprehensions are done live with children. And anything you ask, they will quickly answer. Is it a synonym? Is it an antonym? What is the homonym? What is the words of gender? Is it a prefix? Is it a suffix? Is it a collective noun? Okay. Younger children like grade 1, 2, and 3, they would be able to work and analyze each of the word in the sentence which has been given. So this has to be your objective too whenever you're doing English lessons, because going further from 5.5 or 6 years, your entire English will be divided into language and literature. So you need to be working with all of that. So every chapter, there is grammar that's going to be ending. Only when then the child will have a deeper understanding of how a language is constructed and how better that we will be able to deploy all those skills which is required for reading and writing. Okay, a very, very beautiful topic, that is reading analysis part of it. Okay, so you can have multiple stories or smaller paragraphs, and every day you can ask children to find, okay, one or the other exercises. It's going to be fun. So start as a circle time activity. If you're an older class English teacher, you can actually do this, or you can give it as an exercise for your children to work on weekends and submit this particular project work. And then you can come back and discuss on Mondays, or whenever you have your library time or anything, you can actually take it up to your classes and work with your children. Okay, so that covers your reading analysis. And next one is going to be a very, very simple exercise that we're going to be working. So we have come to such, what I could say, a stage where it's so easy for children to segregate things. And they would be able to work with that. Okay, so this is like, now since many of the sentences are involved, now the child will be able to tell, is it a simple sentence? Is it a complex sentence? If it is a sentence, will it have one subject? Will it have an action? Whatever it is. Okay. So the first exercise that we're going to be decoding is a simple sentence. Now in this presentation, I would have many sentences, where each of my sentence will be related to having one subject and two action. What is subject? Subject is nothing but a noun. Okay. So it will have one subject and two action. For example, what they have given, the dog barked and growled. So what should I do? How do I present this to my child? I will take my grammar symbol box. Okay. Now, what is the first thing that I'm going to be talking about? Whenever I'm having this label card, I will have to be first identifying what is my action word or what is my verb. How many verbs I have here? Barked
Two verbs.
and
Barked and
growled.
growled.
So I have to take how many circles?
Two
Two
circles.
circles. So when I take this circle and I'm going to be keeping it below this, okay, it will look like this, because this is my word. I would have cut them into multiple parts by now. Okay, so it looks like this when I keep the label on the circle. Agree, everyone? I first keep the circle.
Yes, ma'am.
Then I take my label card and I keep it on top of it. This is how it looks. Now I take another one and I know that this is my label card. Okay, so the dog barked and growled. Now I'm able to work on this. Now what is the important aspect of this particular exercise is not only identifying this, but at the same time we ask who growled, who barked. So we're going to be using something extra. Okay, we need to know that we're going to be using something extra. And what are those extras? The extras are nothing but arrows. Okay, so you have to use your arrows to ask questions for our children. So we understood that there are two actions, barked and growled. Who barked? The dog barked. What did the dog do? The dog barked. That's the first action. What was my second action? The dog growled. So what I would do here is like, I place the first action, barked, on top of the table. Then I'm going to have the symbol on it. Then I take my next action and I'm going to place my symbol. So I got both my symbols. Then what are the remaining words I have? The dog and. These are the ones that I have. Now, can I join the dog in center? It doesn't make sense. So what I have to put? I have to put and in the center, and I try to read barked and growled. Then I have to put here the dog. Now, does it make sense? It makes sense, right? The dog barked. Now, what is the next thing that we have to be working is the questions. Okay. How did it do, or who barked? So this is another thing that we are going to be adding. Please underline a black arrow. We're going to be adding a black arrow pointing to the dog. Okay. Okay, whenever I ask questions, who, why, when, what, and all of that, we're going to be using an arrow symbol. Okay. Now, how do we put that into the question? Okay. So let's write it down here. So in the book itself, you can actually take it and you can write. Okay. So first thing is like, what were the actions? What was the first action, guys?
Bark.
Barked.
Bark.
A-R-K-E-D. Barked. And then we had growled, G-R-O-W-L-E-D. So I have my and. Now, the arrow has to point to the subject. I will ask question, who barked? Then I will take the slip and I'm going to be keeping the slip then. After I ask the question, who barked? Then I'm putting the arrow mark and arrow mark is pointing to dog. Then I ask, what did the dog also do? Or, who growled? It's again the dog. Now, when the question is reversed, what did the dog do? I can point my arrow this way. Yes, I can flip my arrow that way. So depending on what is your question, you have to flip your arrows. But make sure the arrow is black in color. Now, the other thing what you need to consider over here is these cards are color-coded. Okay, these cards are color-coded. The first stage 1 cards are blue color. Okay, card 1 set is blue color. Please note down there. So anything that you're going to be writing or anything that you're going to be printing has to be in blue color. If you're purchasing the simple sentence stage 1 Montessori material, the stage 1 cards are all blue color. So it will have 2 actions and 1 subject. Now going to my presentation 2, what else it will have? So we'll disconnect for presentation 2 and we'll connect back. So everybody connect back for the next session.